afternoon, all. On behalf of IoT Academy, we welcome you all for the seventh session of National Level Faculty Refresher Program on Teaching, Learning, and Research in HAIs. Let me introduce the resource person of today's session, Dr. Vasudha. She is currently working as an Assistant Professor of Commerce and Management at St. Anne's College for Women, Hyderabad, Telangana. Her qualifications include MCom, MBA Marketing from Osmania University, and PhD in Commerce from Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University. She is having 12 years of experience in academics. Dr. Vasudha has contributed chapters in e-commerce and auditing books for Ambedkar Open University. She has to her credit 12 paper publications in UGC recognized journals at various national and international conferences. Dr. Vasudha has won Best Paper Award at a national seminar held at ISBN Hyderabad. She has organized and attended numerous FDPs, workshops, and seminars. She has also authored a book titled Online Shopping in India. We welcome you, ma'am, and with this, we hand over the session to Dr. Vasudha. Ma'am, please.
Yeah, thank you, Jayalakshmi. Thank you, Jayalakshmi, madam, for that brief introduction. Just give me a second. I will share my screen.
Sure, ma'am.
I hope my screen is on.
Yes, ma'am, your screen is visible, ma'am.
Yeah. So
Can you present the slides using slideshow, ma'am?
Slideshow, yes. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to one and all. Myself, Dr. Vasudha, will be taking up the topic today on effective article writing, the Scopus and Web of Science publications. Moving on, without any delays, let's go ahead with article writing. What is an article? How do you write an effective article? May I know, out of the participants, anyone pursuing PhD, scholars, or have already experiences on writing the articles? Article writing? I think you can use chat box. All right. Well, effective article writing. Article writing is intentional, exclusively intended to go for publication. It could be a part of your PhD process or even post-PhD also. A regular researcher constantly keep on reviewing various topics and happens to keep publishing their work in various reputed, listed, unlisted journals across open access and closed journals, etc. So as a part of this, today the topic being the tips, the way how an article can be published on Scopus and Web of Science. And the moment we use these Scopus in Web of Science, there are a lot of do's and don'ts. Lot of do's and don'ts for a scholar or for the one who's writing research article. To start with, uh, start directly whatever you know about article writing, you can just go ahead. So before I get into the actual subject, let us first learn as to how to write an article. Okay, an effective article includes what all? So briefly, let me tell you this and then we will move on. So to whether you go for an ISBN, ISSN, UGC, Scopus, Web of Science, ABDC, or whatsoever journals across, the main essential requirements of an articles are these, which are on your screens. And the effective article includes, to start with, is abstract, which consists of around 300 to 500 words. So fundamentally, a researcher has to equip themselves with this article, and then you can plan for where to publish, whether it's Scopus, Web of Science, or say ABDC, or say any other journal. So fundamentally, you should be ready with this article. And this article includes abstract, which is of 300 to 500 words. Again, depending upon the requirement of Scopus in Web of Science, they may slightly differ. But as I'm again telling, I repeat again the same line. Fundamentally, an article remains on these lines only, broadly on these lines. More or less, some variation would happen when you go for Web of Science and Scopus. Otherwise, it remains same. Yes, abstract is a very brief introduction of what is your intention to do in this particular paper. What is that you wanted to show, followed by your methodology, and then finally your achievements. Okay, then you will have to even showcase some keywords indicating the essential words which are a part of your research. Then followed by introduction, which gives an idea for any layperson when they are reading this introduction. A layperson, an outsider, they should get an idea as to what was your intention to do the research on this title, the title which you've selected, the subject which you've selected, why did you select this, and what is your intention to select it, and how it is going to have impact on the domain fundamentally, and then even other effects of it, how, what, etc. you are going to elaborately discuss in introduction. In the introduction itself, you can even quote reviews of the previous citations can be done, which is of great significance in Scopus and Web of Science citations. So hence you can even include in introduction itself citations where you happen to quote some other works in your research article. Taking that as a base, you wanted to, extend, or you wanted to explore the new, subjects or areas related relevance, etc. So you can strengthen your idea by showcasing the previous works, that is literature review. So if you are not able to include that review in your introduction citations, if you are not able to do, then you can simply add a complete set of reviews, approximately 10 to 15 reviews. Again, this is not the exact number which one has to follow. It depends upon your quality of work, the kind of subject domain that you happen to select, etc. So literature review is something where you happen to learn about the previous studies. Presently, you started with some idea. Okay, this you will try to check out earlier, previously, what people have done, what other researchers have happened to say about your idea, what you feel today is of relevance, and then you try to find out the gap. Gap is like, see, when you happen to discuss about your idea, and when you learn that already, some researchers have touched those lines, then what they have not touched, probably in this exercise, the researcher would also know whether what you are feeling is towards a particular idea to conduct a research on is of relevance or not. You may personally feel it is of great, out of your own passion. You may feel yes, it is relevant, it is significant to do, yes, it is worth, it is valid, etc., etc. But when you look back and check whether people have done, you may find people have already done the researches on those lines, or they may not have touched even. So considering those facts, now you can again cross check whether you will stick to your topic, or you would slightly make certain additions or deletions based upon the reviews that you happen to learn. So literature review is of most important thing, because you cannot repeat again and again. If a researcher is presenting to the public the same kind of work again and again, is of no use. If somebody is already done, then you should think on a broader angle. I mean, if they have already covered what you're thinking, that means it is already done. Probably you can concentrate on the next aspect of it, next area, extension, branch of it, or any other relevant topics towards on those lines you can concentrate on. So such a way, a researcher gets an idea as to what you can best do in your own scope. That's literature review. So around 10 to 15 you can show under article. If well and good, if you are able to include all these reviews in your introduction itself. Then comes the significance of the study. Significance of the study is wherein now you will be in a position. Excuse me.
No issues, ma'am.
Excuse me, and sorry for that disturbance. Actually, I am in college. I hope you all understand. There is some announcement which is cannot be controlled. So, anyways, let's start where we stopped. Yes, I was talking about the significance of the study. Significance of the study here indicates the relevance of the topic that you have selected. Now, since you are in a position, you will be in a position after literature review to better understand whether your topic idea, whatever you are thinking of to do research on, is of relevance or not. Is it worth, valid enough or not? So based on that, now you can or you'll be in a position to better write about this relevance of the study. Objectives of the study. Again, objectives of the study can be in the form of bullets, 1 or 2, 3, 4, depending upon the need or the need of the research quality, etc. The objectives can vary from 2 to any number. But as since it is an article, it is better to confine to a small number, because it is better to confine to a small number. Why? Because see, when you happen to widen your scope, you end up reaching wider aspect of it, probably, or sometimes you may end up getting vague results. So it's better to concentrate on one aspect and ensure that you fulfill all the criterias properly and reach with a proper understanding of the subject, and at the end of it you are in a position to write some outcomes of the same. If you are not able to justify that, I mean, if you are not able to provide proper outcomes or suggestion, then your work of writing research article is of waste. So hence it is better to stick to a very narrow area, and in that particular narrow, whatever area that you have narrowed down, in that you happen to explore as much possible as you can, so that you will be in a position to talk about its research outcome very confidently, and it will be justified. And then comes the hypothesis. Hypothesis is a tentative statement that you happen to check whether it is true or accepted or rejected at the end. So for, see, an article to be published in ISBN or any book, suppose in ISBN book, if you are going for, then probably you may not give, you may even skip this hypothesis. But in case of your PhD, in article which you are preparing for Scopus, Web of Science, ABDC, etc., then it is mandatory for you to have a hypothesis. Because without hypothesis, if you go on, probably technically you may be not strong, your paper may not be strong. So hence it is suggested to have an hypothesis for your study. Then comes research methodology. Research methodology is all about the various method process that you happen to carry out in conducting the research, which includes from the very fundamental thing, that is data, primary, secondary, followed by how you make your questionnaire, how are you selecting your sample, what are the various testers that you happen to choose for, etc. All these you have to briefly present under research methodology. Then comes a very important part of your article, which is data analysis and interpretation. Data analysis and interpretation is something which you happen to discuss here. It's a platform where you happen to discuss on what is, what did you start with? That is your objective. And how was your journey? And finally, your research outcome. What are your research outcome is what you wanted to conclude with. So here, in this process, what all testers you have used, all those you will discuss, and slowly you will come down to show the interpretations in the paper. And then finally you will conclude and give suggestions. Give suggestions. Conclusion and suggestions are purely connected back to the objectives. So whatever with the passion with the question that you have started, for those questions you should be very straight away answering those questions. That's your conclusions and suggestions. So out of your own learning experience, you may suggest a certain certain points in the domain that you happen to take up. So you can give us slightly. Not necessary that you happen to focus more on suggestions. Suggestions can be broad, broad aspect. So broadly you can touch the suggestions, and then moving on, you have to even talk about scope of other research which enables the future research. See, as you happen to look at the reviews, previous reviews, similarly your paper will become a review for another paper, somebody else. So for them you should give a hint as to what was your intention to start with, and then finally how did you end up. Were you able to comfortably answer the questions with which you have started or not? If not, there comes a scope for further research. What made you not attain your objective? What were the loopholes, drawbacks, limitations? All that you have to pen down and present under scope for further research. This particular section will give an idea, not only for others but also for you, for your future corrections. So these are the areas where you were not, you know um, these are the areas where you have to strengthen yourself in future. Concentrate on these lines so that in future me, when you carry again a research, you will not again come across the kind of interpretations that you happen to do it, that you happen to face it now in your present research. So those are all those tips and suggestions that you happen to give for the future research. And then finally, acknowledge the people who help you in your journey of research article writing, directly and indirectly. And then finally end up by giving the bibliography, which includes the references, bibliography, appendixes, whatever are data you happen to collect from various journals, periodicals, newspapers, etc. All those details you can provide under the head or section called bibliography. So this is about how to write an article effectively. Moving on to the very essential part of Scopus. So fundamentally, a researcher happens to have a paper ready. I feel, it should be ready with what I showed you in the previous slide. This with all these, kind of stuff. If you're ready with this work, then now you can think about or plan to go for Scopus or Web of Science publication. So let's start with this part, the next part of this session. This is Scopus or Web of Science publications. So before we start, let's see what is Scopus. We talk about much about Scopus. Scopus API indexes based on that. College ranking. Colleges are insisting. Universities is insisting on Scopus and Web of Science publications. What is it? It is simply a database, unlike any other databases that we happen to experience all over these years, journals, open access journals, etc. This is also an citation database, which was launched in the year 2004, only to improve institutions in professional progress. The main aim of Scopus and Web of Science is to show all your work under one umbrella, I would say. Okay, and it is also known as the best abstraction and citation database. It is given the best abstraction and citation database for all those peer-reviewed journals. All those peer-reviewed journals, it is given the name. So Scopus has become so popular because of its citation. More the citation, more your API score is increasing. More the citation, more the points or grades are increased to the universities and colleges, and the professional growth also is happening, is increasing. So hence, because of that, the shift is towards the Scopus in Web of Science publications and also ABDC. And what is this Elsewise? If you might have heard Elsewise, word. This is a publication house, like any other publication house. Probably I could speak about our local publications like Himalaya, Kalyani Publishers, National Publications, Bharati Publications, etc. Elsewhere is also a publication which happens to publish the journals which are in the databases of Scopus and Web of Science publications. Okay, I hope this is clear. Moving on. Now, when a researcher happens to plan to go for Scopus index journals, and what are the steps involved, how does the journey begins with, etc. Let's start discussing. The journey begins with, as I already told, if you have your paper ready, it is better. though it is not mandatory, but it is better suggested to have a paper ready, and then okay, then follow these steps. First step is discovering Scopus Index Journal. Okay, there are various online. The moment you search on Google, you will find, again, you will find, excuse me, you will find many journals popping up showing you results which says, or which promises to be Scopus, but you need to be quite clever and intelligent in order to discover it rightly. Okay, there is a consortium, better you follow that consortium, UGC consortium, where you can simply directly see on UGC the various journals which are referred as Scopus journals. It is better to follow that consortium. You for that consortium, you just go to UGC portal just to see the UGC consortium and register yourself there with your email ID and temporary passwords, and then later you can change. Once you're registered, a page will be open, a home page, where it will give you an choice of list of all the journals, which includes UGC care listed 1, 2, Scopus, peer reviewed, etc. And with dates, the database is available on the UGC portal. All those who are intending to publish and are messed up with the things available on the Google, then better rely on these UGC portals. They are trustworthy. In fact, UGC portals, don't have any question on those. There are few journals which happen to de-recognized. Okay, so the de-recognized dates are also mentioned over there, so you can check whether you happen to publish during your publication, is it so-called UGC Scopus journal or not. That way you can check and then discover a proper Scopus indexed journal. That is one source, and even online also you can find, provided you need to be very cautious and attentive in selecting the Scopus journal. I'll give you a few tips on this. Second is identifying the best journal publication. That is, out of those many, now you have to select one best journal for you, okay, for your publication. Then comes thirdly, compose your research paper as per the guidelines of the journal. Now, I said fundamentally you be ready with the paper, research paper. Now again, there's something called research paper. Yes, here whatever guidelines I have given you to write an effective article, that should be ready, followed by, when you go for the Scopus, Web of Science, or UGC also, one or two, I'll tell you here, see, every journal has their own style, formattings, submission rules and guidelines. So hence you have to simply follow their website. So firstly, you have to discover the index journals, select one of the best journal for your publication, followed by follow the guidelines, whatever they are asking you to do. Okay, submitting your paper also online, you can do. Nowadays it is online. You just have to follow the instructions given on the websites and then submit your paper. After submitting, here you have to wait for the acceptance from the publisher. Now the publisher for Scopus is elsewhere, so you will be receiving a mail saying that your paper is accepted, and you can wait for the publication. Followed by, you will be asked for copyrights. Copyrights means here refers to a form which is to be filled by the author and the co-author and scanned. Duly after scanning, you have to submit it back to the publishing house, to the mail ID or whatever you receive from communication. To them you have to submit back. After submitting, then again you will get a confirmation mail stating that your paper is being published. Along with that, you will also get your published paper cited on the Google Scholar, Scopus, indexed, citation, DOI, etc., etc. So you can just now open and see all those scores about your publications. These are the various steps involved in publishing your Scopus indexed journals. Now let's look into. So first step is discovering. Okay, now in this process of discovering, there are few tips from my side. You can just make a note of it. How do you look at, discovering is the very first step that you happen to, start adventuring for the journals. And in this process you will come across loads of journals which happens to claim wrongly sometimes even that they are Scopus. So you have to be very careful and attentive in selecting. Hence follow skimming the master list of Scopus, get the master list. Out of that, try to concentrate and focus on these lines, such as your preferred subject interest. If you have any mindset on any particular journal, probably which is suggested by your friends, your supervisors, etc., then you can look in for those titles in those master lists. And then publisher. Details of the publisher also you can check. And then finally the ISSN code, which is very mandatory. All these are mandatory. Please do make a note. When you are looking online, these are the very important essential requirement which you have to first ensure that they are all in place and correct. Okay, there can be n number of lists available online which claims to be Scopus, but they may not be. So you need to be very careful in doing this process. So carefully, one by one, look at all this and finalize your Scopus. So once you identify, multiple alternative journals, then what next you have to do is further you have to investigate whether it is the best journal or the best publication where you are going forward with is or not. That check constantly you have to do. And in this process, the very first thing you focus on is reader followers of the journal. How many readers are there? This statistics will be given on their web pages, so you focus on that. Okay, for the new Scopus, for a dummy Scopus journals, these information may not be, and you need to be in a position to identify whether it is dummy or not. Sometimes even they create a web page and they show all these information. You need to be quite smart enough online to trace out to be the correct information or not. That is the reason why I suggested UGC consortium is the best place which you can resort. Followed by, you have the topic that a journal is known for covering. Now, as I already mentioned, you are ready with one paper. Okay, so you know your subject domain, where in which particular. So accordingly, you will be now looking for a journal which will cover your subject. Okay, followed by you try to not just focus on submitting initially. You have to focus on learning how the previous authors have published. Previous articles are on those journals. Download them, learn how the format is, how the content is, how the material is, and accordingly you have to go on. Okay, now why should you look back and check the others' work? You may get a question. For that question, the answer is, the more you understand how the previous works are on those platforms, the more chances of your paper getting, your article getting accepted will be high. Unknowingly, like a layman, if you don't do this homework and just simply present your paper to them, then there are chances that your paper may be asked for reviewing, or sometimes even they may reject you. So hence it is better to understand before we submit our paper as to what type of papers are they publishing, what format they are following. So this you can understand from the guidelines, as well as by looking at their previous volumes. You can download any one and then check one, two, three, as much as you can explore. Will give you an idea, better way to redraft your own work. So that way it will help you. So it is better to look back the previous volumes. Opportunity of resulting, the more understanding you have of that particular journal, the more better in a place you will find yourself to redraft your work. This will enhance your work as well as create a wider opportunity room for your, research publication, because you are not leaving any scope for rejection. You are ensuring every corrections in everything beforehand itself. So there is no room for, no scope for rejections. Probably they may ask for some, reviewers may ask for some corrections, etc. That is a part and parcel, but rejection you may not face if you do all this homework. Okay, so whether it is an open access or closed access, follow the same rule. So firstly, you are trying to discover. Secondly, you are trying to identify the best journal with these tips. Then followed by, get back to your work now. What work you have already done a particular in an article on a particular subject. Okay, now take that work back and now sit with that work. Try to analyze as to how you have looked at the previous volumes, what type of work this particular journal is seeking. You will get an idea. Okay, now look at your present work. Is it in the same line? If not, also no worries. You are, in a position to redraft it now. Okay, now it is for you. It's time for you to now redraft it according to the requirement of the journal. The specifications, guidelines as given, you have to just keep those all in mind and start redrafting. It won't be much, see here, it is simply redrafting. Some minor changes here and there you happen to do because the guidelines are like that. Hence, you have to do. But otherwise, the focus of a researcher on attaining the objectives, methodology, all that you finish doing. So you are much in a very relaxed position. Okay, here you can just simply focus on selecting, identifying, selecting, and then followed by composing your draft again as per the requirement. So terms and conditions, all these points you have to one by one check and make your research article ready for the Scopus. Okay, followed by submitting. Now the time comes for you. Once you're composing it according to the requirements of the journal, now the time comes for you submitting. Now for submitting, where to submit, when to submit, fees, details, etc. Yes. Coming to fees details, there are the Scopus journals which are charging from 10 to 20,000. Now, it absolutely depends upon your choice as to how are you going to select. So most of the Scopus index journals involves, very quite simple step and procedure, not user-friendly procedure. It's not complicated at all. So you just have to go to their websites. Now, once you're comfortable position, submission time comes, then you go register yourself, create an room for yourself by giving your email ID, your topic research, your profile, sometimes your details on work experience, universities that you're working, and your contribution in research. All those details they may ask. You have to provide all these details. Once you provide all these details, your account is created. Once your account is created, now you can simply go on, by clicking on that button of submission. You can upload your work and wait for the response from the publishing house. See, as it is stated in these lines: discovering, identifying, composing, submitting, notification of acceptance will be coming, then transfer the copyright forms. Copyright forms is something which you which when you receive, you can relax that yes, you are very close to publication. Okay, that is the mode where which takes you to, gives an assurance that yes, your work is getting accepted and it is going to be very soon published. Okay, before copyrights, if any reviewer comments or any corrections, etc., they may ask you, they may send you the mail with all the details as to what is supposed to be done, including plagiarism, etc. So all that you need, one has to check. Once you finish checking and they are satisfied, you will get the copyrights form. Once you receive copyrights form, that is the stage where you can simply relax. No more question marks on your paper. So hence you can relax, sit back and wait for your publications to happen. So these are the few tips on discovering, identifying and composing your draft, followed by submitting. After submitting, you have to wait for the reviewer finally, copyrights form, and then moving on to the publications. Okay, so besides this, while composing, okay, the very essential part is this, which is composing your research article. Some are ready with the article, some start their work after selecting the scopus. So whatever the case could be, you happen to consider this particular stage to be very prominent in terms of research and publication, because this is a stage where you should be getting as much clarity as on strengthening your work as much possible as you can, so that in the later stages, that is when you submit, you may not get it back declined. Okay, that stage you need not face if you do as much hard work as possible in these stages. So another format, this is one of the format which is Scopus Index Journal seeking from the authors is title page. Okay, Scopus Index Journal seeking from one of the index journals format this is, which includes title page. If you see, if you could recollect my first slide, which says abstract keywords introduction, I started with. Okay, that's a fundamental way of writing research article, which needs again redrafting as per the requirement of where you are submitting. Could be ISSN, ISBN, etc., etc. Okay, so coming to Scopus in Web of Science, these are the few elements which one has to cover. So if you're ready with that fundamental, you can easily do it off, go off, you can design your paper on these lines, which includes title page. Title page includes your title, okay, title of it, and journal where you're working, your details, okay, author's information, which includes, could be, you can even have a co-author. So your author, author one, author two details, along with the your names, your where you're working, your email ID, phone numbers, everything needs to be shown here, and present address. Then comes abstract keywords, introduction, material, methods, result. Now from here onwards, you can find the fundamental thing which I have showed, research article, how a research article should be. So here you can see the editions are like title page, author's information, present address. Not just this, at the end, they may also seek a reviewers list from the authors itself. Okay, supposing you are going for a publication on Scopus, you will be submitting your work, as well as you also are asked to submit some reviewers list, 2, 3, 4. Again, the number depends upon, differs from one journal to another journal. So here they ask you the reviewers. Now, what reviewers, how do you give reviewers? Again, how do you make a reviewers list? It should be a question mark to you. Reviewers are none other than the person who are going to review your article. So here, these reviewers also, they seek from us only a list consisting of international and national reviewers. International connections, whatever best you can give. International, so you may be knowing them, their email IDs, phone numbers, etc. You have to possess them. Okay, national, local, on various grounds they may ask, levels, national, international. So again, this differs from journal to journal. Some may ask, some may not. So depending upon the need, you have to possess these information and provide on the website itself. While you're submitting your work, at that time, you also have to give the reviewers information also. So besides all that you have seen, the very important aspects which are summed up in these lines are: choose the right article, choose the right journal. First, fundamentally, I would state, you be ready with your work. Okay, then start looking at your presentations, publications, where you want to publish. Scopus, Web of Science, ABDC, ISSN, UGC 1, UGC 2, all UGC 2 journals, and most of them are Scopus, you can see online. Okay, so once you're ready with your work, so your concentration should not get diluted. A researcher happens to focus more on your research work, quality of research work. Do quality of research work and then relax. Then now move on to the next job of yours, is publication. Without publicizing your work, again it is of waste. Okay, so it is of no use. You have to also publish. So primarily I would suggest a researcher to focus on doing a quality research. Once you're done with your quality research, now you are in a position to concentrate on selecting the journal. So for the very first time, the one who is doing a researcher for the very first time, going to Scopus or Web of Science, it is little, difficult task, time consuming, very complicated, confusion also at the same time. Yes, it happens to be. Okay, but yet you have to, focus on those lines, move slowly, steadily, because it is first experience for you, and then slightly move ahead with your choosing. See, anything goes wrong, whether you compromise on the quality of the research work, is danger. Later stages, journals like Scopus Index, etc., may not accept. So hence, quality of research work is also of importance. Okay, when you do a quality of research work, automatically you will gain the confidence, and this confidence will give you confidence to publish on Scopus and Web of Science also. So first, fundamentally focus on quality research work. Once you're done with that, then your concentration, because first time you need extra efforts on these lines. Okay, so when you're doing it for the first time, look at, concentrate on choosing the right journal. Again, I repeat, choosing the right journal is of much importance. Just don't go driven away by the web options which are available to you immediately. Do not believe, not every journal is an original journal on the website, okay, online. You need to be in a position to figure it out whether it is a fake journal or a genuine journal. That is the reason why I quoted here UGC consortium, which you can rely on to find the best journal place. And then prepare your article. Here, actually, the next stage is prepare your article. But I would suggest, I already suggested to prepare and keep ready your article. Okay. Here, prepare article refers to composing or redrafting your article back to the guidelines of the journal that you have chosen to publish your paper in. Okay, each Scopus journal has a different guidelines. Most of them more or less the same, but slightly differing. Again, you cannot make a difference. You cannot do a difference. Okay, as in how they want, we have to make our paper ready and submit. We cannot compromise on those lines. The moment we submit, compromise and submit, it will come back immediately stating it is not as per the standard. Please compose it back, redraft it back as per the standards or guidelines, and then resubmit it back. So to avoid such situations, it is better to sit back, have enough sufficient time to compose it back again as per the guidelines of that journal. And another thing, any paper that you are submitting should be a first hand publishing paper. It should not an unpublished paper. Mm, at the same time, it should not be presented or in process under any journal also. This points you have to keep in mind when you're going. It many a times it happens that because the time taken by Scopus in Web of Science, UGC care listed are as long as 45 days to 2 months, 3 months also. If it is a quarterly, biannual journal, 6 months, annual journal, 1 year. So in this lengthy process, one gets exhausted, the researcher, and happens to share the same work with some other journals. This practice you should avoid, because once you submit your journal, it unless and until you receive a confirmation mail that it is accepted or it is rejected, you cannot use the journal again at other places. Similarly, as you happen to do with Scopus, same is applied on the others also. Suppose you have a journal, you have an article presented in some conference. It has not got published yet, but it is in the process. Now you got to know about a Scopus publication. You wanted to send the same paper for Scopus. That practice you should not avoid doing, because you've already sent your publication there. You are waiting for your publication, whatever it could be, whether it is ISBN, ISSN, or whatsoever, but you happen to wait for them either to reject or say no publications from them, get the confirmation, and then you can reuse that paper for further publications. But without getting any confirmation from them, if you go on for a publication with another journals, then your your paper will be a big question mark, and such papers immediately are traced by the Scopus in Web Sciences and they're rejected straight away. And not just the journal's responsibility, but as an ethical researcher, we should not do such practices. So better to wait for that journal to complete the process. Either it is accepted or denied, whatever the status could be, you can then follow with your next journal, or you do it, fresh hand. Okay, so any journal which is in process, unpublished, published journal should not be re-published again to the Scopus in Web of Sciences. That is very unethical. Avoid doing it. Then follow the submission process, which is stated. The submission process includes online registration of the author and the co-author. Also, ORCID IDs these days people are insisting on various journals, or some other IDs that they may be insisting on, like ORCD, ORCIDs, etc. If any, yes, you have to go even for registering those, lines on those lines also. Then nothing harm. In fact, they are good enough. For example, if I have to tell you about ORCID ID, it's a platform where you register as a professional professor, and then all your presentation, publications, presentations, books, authored, co-authored, etc., are shown on your web page there in your ID. Okay, so you will have a kind of library, digital library maintained by these ORCID. So sometimes we are seeing for some journals, they're asking ORCID IDs. So it is better to prepare one ORCID ID and be ready when you are planning to go for Scopus in Web of Sciences. Okay. Plagiarism check is another thing which you happen to do it on your own. First level, ensure that it is below 10% and 5%, as low as 5%, I would suggest, and then go for Scopus. Okay, otherwise you will get a report stating how much plagiarism and all. So again, you have to sit and redo. It is better to follow some ethics and do a proper, genuine work. Okay, good quality research work, which is out of plagiarism, okay, with no plagiarism. Then follow the assessments and revisions, if any. Again, as I have been quoting, assessments and revisions, if any, they'll be suggesting us in case on those lines. If you get any mails, you have to answer them and do your make ready your manuscript according to their requirement, and then followed by code of conduct. As I said, guidelines. A code of conduct is wherein do's and don'ts for the author, co-author, copyrights, plagiarism check, unpublished, published data. All these ethical dues have to be followed sincerely. Nobody will be telling you, yes, they are all there in the guidelines, but as a researcher, we have to ensure that we have some ethics in conducting the research. Okay, so code of conduct are guidelines provided by these journals that you happen to select. Follow, again, slightly, there are differences in the guidelines also from one journal to another journal. Stick to the journal that you have selected and adhere to the code of conduct, whatever they are asking for. Okay, and then finally, how to make an impactful article which doesn't come back with declined mode, or say for editing again, etc. So to do so, a researcher is suggested to avoid confusion. And to avoid confusion, I'll give you one very simple trick. As in when it is a researcher is in full-time researcher, whatever you seek, observe in the society, in your routine, you happen to keep on, thinking in the perspective of research. That is the attitude of research. A researcher. Okay, so when you have this attitude, definitely you will have some following some ethics. You will definitely end up doing a proper quality research work. Okay, but for the first beginners, what to do, what not to do, everything seems to be very attractive. What to select and what not to select. So there would be a lot of confusion. So for the beginners, I would suggest be clear and crisp in your selection. Don't go get into confusion by putting one shoe in one domain of the subject and the other shoe in the other domain of the subject. Don't do such practices. Better you stick to one aspect, have clear cut vision as to what you are going to do. Okay, and then follow the research ethics, and then article writing steps. You can easily move on. Second suggestion is act smart and get creative. Act smart and get creative is, see, a researcher, whether you are selecting a topic for your research or selecting a journal for Scopus publication, whatever task you're doing, you need to be very smart and creative in identifying the genuine and the fake works. Okay, genuine and the fake. See, for Scopus publication, when you are intending, then definitely you have to sit online. And online, there are so many websites and so many places where you can get trapped off. You need to be very cautious. So for this, I would suggest you to be smart enough and creative enough to identify the good and good stuff and bad stuff online. Okay, then be simple and precise. Yes, don't complicate your work. Don't complicate. The very first time, if you're going for Scopus in Web of Science, go as per your subject, multidisciplinary, select, and simply follow the instructions with the one. Don't start inquiring with any number of publishers and publishers and the journals, and then end up messing things and not coming to consensus. Okay, so it is better to kickstart your journey with very clear cut vision. simple and precise. Focus on citations. Yes, citations plays a very important role. So citations are something which you happen to your work also gets cited when you use ORCID, Google Scholars, etc. When your work is being published on Google Scholar. So similarly, you also use citations, which will strengthen your work. At the same time, will give an idea and a proper vision as to what earlier studies happen to have done and what best you can do further without repeating the same topic again. So here is the list of Scopus Index journals that I have brought to you. Again, this is not an end list, but yes, this is a list which you can surf online and follow the guidelines as stated in each journal. It differs from journal to journal. So you can just, based upon your domain, subject domain, you can select it. Even multidisciplinary also, you can select it for publications, etc. Okay, so now I am open for questions. If any questions, I can take up.
The session is open for discussion now. You can unmute and interact with the resource person, or you can post the questions in the chat box also. Ma'am is there to help you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you all.
Yes. Any questions can be put up on chat box, or you can even unmute. Seems to be no questions. Jayalakshmi ma'am?
Till now, there are no questions, ma'am.
Yeah.
Dear participants, do you have any queries? You can post in the chat box also. I read it to ma'am.
Yes, I can see the chat box messages. Thank you, Dr. Kumaran. Thank you, Surekha madam, Ahmad Ahmed Garu, and everyone. Thank you so much. If you have any queries, any questions, you can. Thank you. Thank you, Seema, madam.
Any queries, participants?
Seems to be no. Jayalakshmi ma'am.
Shall we wind up, ma'am?
Yeah.
On behalf of IoT Academy, we thank Dr. Vasudha ma'am for the informative, interesting, enlightening, and enriching session. And we thank you once again for the amazing and excellent presentation, ma'am. And we thank you for enhancing our knowledge with the commendable presentation. We thank you very much for your efforts, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Jayalakshmi ma'am from IoT Academy for giving me this opportunity. And thank you everyone for their patience listening. Had a great time presenting this. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mama. You're always
Good day.
welcome. Ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am. I thank all the participants for joining the session today. Kindly submit the feedback form using the link that will be posted in the chat box now. Thank you all. Have a great day.